going on, guys? Welcome back. It's me, Danny, again.
This is Rob.
Yeah, and then we've got Mike White. So Mike, why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little about yourself?
Hold on, let's make sure let's do this correctly because I don't think we've done this yet. So this is our Veteran Spotlight broadcast that we're doing. I think we need to actually label this just so people understand what's going on. And this is the one where we interview the veterans out there, kind of get their story on stuff. And like we talked about in our last segment, we're eventually going to go around. We'll have a different segment name for the other ones, but it'll be more like concentrating on the veteran businesses. But yeah, so now I think we can lead into it. We know exactly why we're here. So let's hear Mike's story.
So, my name is Mike White, like you guys said. I entered the military, delayed entry program, 1989, in the Marine Corps. 1994 days after high school graduation, I had shipped off to MCRD San Diego. So I
was eating crayons all during this time.
I'm a California Marine.
So was I.
Right. So, I entered the Marine Corps. Kind of unique. I was 3 weeks from graduating boot camp when Iraq invaded Kuwait.
Oh, all right.
So, that was a new drill instructors came out and they were like, take a look around, and like everything got real. Like, whether boot camp was real for you or not, it got real. So we finished boot camp, went to Marine Corps combat training. Went on for 10 days and I went to Marine Corps combat training. I don't know if they still do that or not, but it was required whether you're infantry or not. And I was an 0341, so we did that for 3 weeks.
You're a card player.
Yeah.
That's the guys who played spades.
Right.
No, that's actually the mortarman, but I'm just being sarcastic.
So we did that for 3 weeks.
We did
we did that for 3 weeks, and then everybody left to go to their MOS schools, and we did a duffel bag drag down the street about a mile, and just got to do it all over again.
Yeah. Now, what was the difference between going to like MCT and then going to actual like?
Back then, I'm pretty sure you went to both.
Yeah.
So
that's what he just said.
Yeah. So you back then, so up until 90, when I came in, the class right before me in 95 was the last class. The last time they did both MCT, which is Marine Combat Training, which is the guys that everybody used to go through. That's why we had the terminology, every Marine or rifleman.
Yep.
So they would go through that, and it was at that time it was 26 days. I don't know if they're still doing it or not, but it's the way it broke down. And then you would go to 3 months of ITB, which is Infantry Training Battalion, which is School of Infantry. So all it's School of Infantry, but one is for your actual his job, mortarmen's, machine gunners, stuff like that. The other side is for any job. You could be a supply warehouse, you could be a cook, like Danny was, and you went through that school, and then but it changed in 95. So that sucks, man.
So it was 26 days, and I mean it started off day one like you're going to the field. We lived in Kwanzaa huts up on
They're still there.
Yeah, they're still there. San Onofre.
Yeah. So we lived.
I lived in those. I was in those Kwanzaa huts
too.
Yeah.
What was unique is them were nice because most of the time you were in the field. I mean, the first 10 days you were in the field. Like you walked out. I don't remember how many miles it was, right? Yeah. Get there, and then you lived out there for 10 days, and you would come back, get a weekend off.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So big difference. Really, there was none. Like the 26 days in the beginning, in the first 2 weeks of School of Infantry, was pretty much like that 26 days. I remember doing a duffel bag drag, and our first day in the School of Infantry, we go on a 5-mile run, right? So we're going to a demo range. So we run, get down there, sit down, they're like, all right, you can eat your breakfast. And then all of a sudden you can see the leadership talking. They're like, all right, pack it up, we're on the wrong range. The range we were supposed to go to was 2.5 miles from where we started. And I'm sure it was a big game, right? So then we run, we get to this range, and then they let us eat this demo range. And I just remember these two kids come walking in. They're like, I'm not doing this. I'm done. Right?
Oh, dang.
Even back then, first one's like, are you refusing to train? And they're like, yeah, I'm not doing this. I can't do this no more, right? And the MP showed up. They put them in handcuffs, hauled them off to the brig,
Yeah, back then they didn't play around, man. Nowadays they're like, oh, well, just go to the first sergeant's office.
Yeah,
and then,
And we've seen them again, which is unique. You see them again because you're almost graduating the School of Infantry.
Oh, yeah.
And these guys
They're
are
still
back
there.
in
Yeah.
there. They just got 30 days in a brig with
Yeah.
no pay, you know, policing the side of the road. So, but I mean, Marine combat training was a good course because you learned every weapon system. We broke down any weapon system they had.
Mhm.
We learned how to clean them. We learned
Yeah.
how to shoot them. So for those that were non-infantry, that was their only big
That's all you
booyah
got
in the
until you actually got
yeah.
the fleet. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then if you were to, an admin job, they would still have you like go break down a 240 because every headquarters has, all
Yeah.
the different
Right.
weapons too. So it's like, oh, go to the army and clean the,
Yeah.
So
And I'm sure, like when you guys came in, I mean, that was the first, big war. I mean, big build up, since the Vietnam era. So things were very serious in the School of Infantry,
Yeah.
and you would get your speeches all the time, like, "Hey, look around. Some of you ain't coming back." Like, Desert Storm, they thought high casualties were going to get gassed. All these things were going to
Yeah.
happen. So it made the training a little more real, especially when you went to Gruntland and it was, now you're going to be an infantryman.
Yeah.
But Camp Bones was empty. Like the 1st Marine Division was completely deployed by the time I graduated from the School of Infantry. So I show up my first duty station. In fact, we graduated, they sent us to Main Side, Camp Pendleton, and we were living in these old barracks with guys that they were bringing back that were deserters from Vietnam that they were still out processing, right? That had went AWOL back in the Vietnam era. So we stay there. And then they say, okay, they cut our orders, and hey, you're going to this duty station, this duty station.
Yeah.
I show up in my first duty station, which was 1st Light Armored Infantry, LAVs. Everybody was gone except for one company. Our one company that was getting ready to get on the Westpac and float was the only company there.
So here's a good question for you because we know the same guy.
Right.
Was probably lieutenant colonel back then, or maybe major at the time. But Powers, was he your battalion commander back then?
No. So when I got into
Was he
Desert
there?
Storm, Major Power, he was a major.
Major, okay.
He was a major in Desert Storm.
I'm going to tag you in this, by the way.
Yeah, Major Powers was I want to say the commanding officer of 3rd LAI.
Yes.
At
back
the
then.
time, right. But when I got the Desert Shield, Desert Storm, we had all integrated together. We were like one. So even in my mortar variant, I had 2 guys from 3rd LAI, and then there was 3 of us from 1st LAI, but we were all intermingled.
Yeah,
It's
together.
pretty crazy. Yeah, because I was wondering, like, how do we know the same guy?
Right.
Like, when I look at Facebook and we were both messaging, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I guess he was just out here recently and out here, and I was like, oh, dude, come by here, man. We'll come by and swing by. Because I had him in 99, 2000 was when he actually promoted me. He pinned me on for sergeant.
Yeah, Major Powers,
So-
Lieutenant or
Colonel,
Colonel retired Powers is the badass.
Oh, dude, he's like one of the most motivating
Yeah.
officers I've ever worked
Right.
for.
That's
Just
great.
a motivating individual. Like, he's the one that started the Highlander games.
Oh yeah.
Which
Yeah,
is
we talked.
basically-
Yeah.
we talked about that.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
crazy dude, awesome
Yeah.
guy. So I will put a plug in there, and I'm going to tag you in this.
Yeah, that's good.
There, Jeff, just so you know.
Nice. So what happened after that? You guys kind of combined forces.
Yeah, we kind of combined. I mean, when I got there, like I said, there was only one company left for my battalion, and so we stayed around there. And so we walked in, we were all brand. I think it was a PFC at the time, right? Wasn't even a Lance Corporal, and they were like, "Hey, come in." We did a police call in the morning. They'd be like, "All right, go hang out in the barracks." Like there was nothing to do. So second day there, the staff sergeant comes out and is like, "Hey, you guys want to go home for Christmas?" Like, yeah, right. So they send us, "Okay, go get your plane tickets." We go home for Christmas. We come back the first day back from that Christmas vacation in January. They're like, "Hey, tomorrow you're leaving." So we go to
Surprise.
this, yeah, which we knew we were going anyways. But
Right.
so we go to Main Side, Pendleton, and we're drawing gear, and like everything is brand new. Like my sleeping bag's brand new, my NBC mask is brand new, my M16 it's still got packing grease on it with an MP number on the side of it, you know. So you're stuffing all this gear. You get on a plane and you leave, and I just remember we're flying. You know, we fly in and we're landing in Saudi Arabia, and the pilot says, "Hey, welcome to Saudi Arabia, MOP level 0." And I'm thinking, holy shit, I'm sure glad it's MOP level 0 because my mask is not even put together. It's in my duffel bag underneath the plane, right?
Yeah,
man.
You know,
Right.
So we get there, link up with the unit, you know, and I roll out with them, and it's like 8 days before the air war starts. That's how close we get there. Now, this company there in platoon that we end up with, a lot of them guys, they had been there since September.
Oh wow.
Right? So they just hanging out in the desert doing nothing, you know. Now we're the new guys.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, I remember when Desert Storm started, or when the air war started, and we first dropped bombs, being on guard duty, and you watched the B-52s fly over with the fast moves on the side, you know, and everything started, and it was unique. And I mean, we would go up on the berm of Kuwait at night, shoot mortars in there. We'd have psyops with their little music going, you know, and then we'd have our Iraqis.
You dropping like loom rounds or actual like?
Yeah,
rounds?
loom rounds, you know, and we would hit police stations too. If we knew there was an Iraqi stronghold, we would roll up. And in fact, I remember one raid we did. It was, you have 8 minutes or 10 minutes or something, and you just drop as many mortar rounds as you can, right?
Wow.
So at the end of it, they called, you know, I forget what the call sign was. They called and you left no matter what. Well, during that time, one of our mortars had a misfire.
Oh.
And they were like, we're going to get counterfired, so don't even wait. So they turned that mortar towards the enemy, and we just took off with a mortar misfired inside of the tube until we cleared the danger area, and then we ended up cleaning out, you know, clearing the tube of it. But yeah, we would go up there. I mean, we would pick up stragglers every night that were quitting, you know, and most of them, they were forced up there. And then, I mean, we did the air war, we did some of that, and then we went into the ground war. I mean, we went back, got ready, and I was part of Task Force Shepherd. You had Task Force Ripper and Task Force Shepherd.
Ripper.
Yeah, so Ripper breached, basically fanned out, and then Shepherd went right through the middle, and we cleared these oil fields, you know, and we were in mock gear for, I don't know, 3 weeks. I mean, we were in mock level 2 or 3. And I remember when we hit the oil fields, they kept calling gas, you know. It's about 36 hours into us going into there, and I'm trying to sleep, you know, I'm just a young Lance Corporal, and they'd be like, gas, and you put your mask on, and you'd start to hyperventilate a little bit, like, is this real, like, you know, and then be like, take your mask off, like, you're the guy who's going to test to see if, you know, but we did it so much, I just finally said, hey, don't wake me up no more, man, until it's my shift. I'll just sleep in my mask, because, you know,
You don't have to get up.
yeah, you know, you just like, whatever, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, that's how my first day in Iraq was. We were driving from, we went to TQ, we landed in TQ, Camp Al Taqaddum, and we were driving to some small fob. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but that's where they were staging us. And we were driving, and I was just like, my sergeant was like, he's like, everybody was falling asleep in there. Except for he was sitting right next to me, and every time I doze off, he'd be like, "You gotta stay awake." And I'm like, "You're freaking me out now." And I'm like, "All right, cool." So I'm sitting there, you know, like staring out the window, and I was like, "Hey, Sergeant, why are they taking pictures of us at nighttime?" Because we're driving on a gravel road, and he was like, "They're not taking pictures of us; they're shooting at us." And I'm like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
And because I'd been in Iraq for 6 hours, you know. And yeah, we did workups and everything like that, but they don't tell you that, like, you're gonna get shot at regardless, you know, because you can hear the little tink, 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 tink on the side, but it sounds like rocks when you're driving down the road, like on your car. And I didn't think about it, but I mean, that's the kind of stuff where, like, towards the end of my deployment, like, I would be sleeping and I'd hear explosions off in the distance, and I'd just be like, and I go right back to sleep, because I'm like, yeah, if they're not coming at us, whatever, don't even bother me with it. Yeah. So you get very desensitized to potential life-threatening, you know.
Until something wakes you up again, like you get that shot, that bing, like, oh, okay. That was
I think that's what
something.
most people don't understand is, like, I mean, it happens so often, right? And when it happens so often, it's, you know, like, how do you react to it? Well, when it's over, you laugh. Like, hey, everybody's all right. I mean, all you can do is laugh. Like, shit, that was close, right? I mean,
that's why a lot of vets have a very dark sense of humor, because, like, when you spend so much time next to, I mean, potentially dying, you get very desensitized to it, and so weird stuff makes you find funny, because just because, you know, like, the normal stuff just doesn't do it for you anymore, you know.
It's true. Yeah, I got a horrible sense of humor. So You know, but yeah, and it is. It's a lot of desensitization. You know, desensitizing that you get from being in especially combat, or just it didn't have to necessarily be combat. You know, just doing enough stressful like that being in MOP.
Yeah.
36 hours, even if you weren't getting shot at, man. Oh, that's a miserable experience in the desert, especially Kuwait. Kuwait's 120 degrees, and you know, and you cross over to Iraq, which is 130 with 90% humidity. You sweat out a camelback in 5 days. I can't imagine how much. Dude, you just walk with a canteen in your hand, you know, just drinking through your gas mask.
Yeah, I never had to live in MOP gear, but I mean, I've been on 36, 48, 72-hour convoys where you stop to refuel, and that's when you got to take a dump. You better do it. You got about 10 minutes, and then if you have to go while we're going, like, you better be cool with whoever you're riding with, because you're gonna be taking a dump wherever you can, and in a Humvee or in the back of a PAX truck if you're lucky, because you have some space. But so I mean, I couldn't imagine being in MOP gear for that long. But I've been on convoys where it was like you're just in a tin can, just driving, and you're in an oven, just rolling around.
Yeah, we'd go to MOP 4, we'd come back down, but I mean, we stayed in MOP level 2. I mean, for that whole time until we got to our objective, which was Kuwait International Airport.
Still miserable.
And you know, when I took my boots off, I mean, your feet were soaked all the time. Like, you know, you get trained in trench foot and all that. My toenails fell off just from wearing them boots for that long, you know. But it was also nice because the oil fires were going, so it would be completely daytime. And it would be dark as night because the oil fires was covering everything. You would wash what little bit of skin you had, and you'd be a speckled trout within, you know, an hour afterward, just because it was raining oil on top of us. When we got done, we didn't bring any equipment home. So remember I told you I drew all that new issuance. We basically took all that and they burned it right there, and we got new uniforms to come home in and stuff like that. So. Yeah, it was. I mean, and, you know, I was a kid, man. I was a young kid. You know, it was very interesting. I mean, like one time we earned our combat action ribbons. We came back on a night raid. We came back, and being mortars, you kind of get spread out to whoever needs you. So they tell us, hey, go link up with this company. So we got there, and we linked up with the chain of command, and they're like, hey, go ahead and bed down, you know. And so you had to dig a hasty scrape. And we called it dig your little grave, so they could just throw some dirt on sand on top of you if they needed to. But so we laid down for an hour, and we get woke up like, pack of shit, we got to go now. We had some Force Recon guys that were in Kofji, and there was tanks and stuff coming in. So the company of LAVs and our AT, what do you call them? AT, not AT4s, the tow missiles, right? Our tow variants were going in to help them, and so. They take off. First sergeant says, hey, just leave all your loose stuff here. I'll come back in the morning and get it. You know, let's just get in the fight. So we come in behind them, and there was tanks and stuff going on. There was some pretty good fighting going on. And as we were coming in, my platoon sergeant, or my platoon leader was a captain. Back then he was a captain, which was unique because normally you'd have a lieutenant. But I think it's because we combined 2 battalions, you know. So they almost called fire on us. You know, and that captain, I remember him being on the radio, like, hey, listen, some orders were coming into this grid. So that night, in that battle, we lost 2, let's see, we had a tow variant shoot another tow variant. Just disintegrated the tank off. Then we had an LAV-25 that was hit by a fast mover. One kid ended up living on it, the driver, because they dropped the flare to Mark. He jumped out of his driver's hatch, kicked it off, jumped down supposedly to take a leak, and that's when the next fast mover came in and hit that. Man. So that was our casualties for there. Besides, we had one where we came off a raid and an LAV convoy stopped. An LAV-25 ran to the back of the other 25 and killed all the scouts in the back of it. So,
it's nuts.
Yeah. So you push through all that. I mean, we got clear all these fields, and it was crazy because you'd clear. We were finding AKs, we were finding grenades. You know, we cleared bunkers upon bunkers. You know, and so this is kind of a funny story. As we were collecting these, we're infantry, like, hey, I want an AK. You know, so we roll up as we're getting towards Kuwait International Airport, and my squad leader had said, hey, when we get to the airport, all your weapons are going to be turned in. All the captured weapons, General Boomer wants them turned in. So these Marines had come over, they were an artillery battalion, and they were like, hey, you guys got any weapons? Whatever. We're like, yeah. yeah, we've been clearing bunkers for freaking 3 days now, or however long it's been, right? He's like, what do you got to trade? He's like, I got a roll of Copenhagen from the United States, not the hard kit and stuff. I was like, dude, I'll trade you 2 AKs for it, right? and he did. We traded up, you know, and they were reserve units, so I'm sure they thought they could figure out how to get them home, but that was money for me as a young grunt, you know, so.
It's almost impossible to get the good stuff out there anyway.
Yes.
I smoked when I joined them, or I smoked after I joined the Marine Corps. Marine Corps gave me that habit. And it was hard to get cigarettes in Iraq. You could get the local whatever, but they were trash. And so one of my buddies used to dip, and I didn't have any cigarettes, and he was like, "You want to dip?" And I was like, "I've never done it before." He's like, "It's easy. Showed me how to do it. Cool." Been dipping like a week. We were on a convoy, and a couple of vehicles in front of us ran over an IED. So we stopped, got out, 360 perimeter and everything. Well, when they slammed on the brakes, I swallowed my dip. And then so we got out, we did the 360 and everything. Everybody, you know, is calming down and everything, and then I just throw up. Like I stomached it because I didn't want to throw up if we were taking fire, because that's all I need, you know.
Right.
And so the convoy commander comes up. he's like, "You all right, son?" And I was like, "Sir, I'm fine." I was like, I've been here, you know, 5, almost 6 months. I just got attached to you guys. You guys have been here a couple weeks. Like, I'm okay. This is my first rodeo. And he's like, "Well, what happened?" I was like, I swallowed my dip. He was like, "What?" And I was like, "I just started dipping and I swallowed it. When they hit the brakes, I swallowed it." And then he pat me on the back and started laughing, and he walks up and he starts talking to his driver, and people were in there, and they start talking and everything, and then you see him point over at me, and then they all start, you know, doing belly laughing and everything, and that was the last time I dipped. But yeah.
So you made me think when I was in school infantry, they had to tell you the smoking lamp was lit, right?
Yeah.
Like you could dip and smoke, but they had to tell you. And so we had this one guy who was on my gun crew, and his name was Quintana. I can remember, but he would always put it right in the front of his lip. I mean, not trying to hide it or anything.
Yeah.
So we're on the gun line, and he gets caught, you know what I'm saying, again, you know, and the trainer, the sergeant or trainer was like, "All right, who else is dipping?" He was like, "No, I'm dipping." So he's like, "All right, come over here." He's like, "You got any more dip?" And I was like, "No, that was my last dip." And I guess the other guy thought he just wanted to get a dip from us. So he's like, "Yeah, here's a brand new can." Right? So he's like, "Flutter kicks." So we're doing flutter kicks, and he's like, "Open your mouth," and he dumps half the can in his mouth, half the can in my mouth, and makes us do flutter kicks, you know, and he's like, "I'm gonna kill you, dude."
Right? Dang.
Yeah.
So you were talking about, so you're still pushing past these to the oil wells. You're pushing.
Yeah.
So what happened? Obviously, you're going through some of your stuff. What else happened into that when you got?
Well, so I mean, we ended up getting to our objective, Kuwait International Airport. We got there, we took perimeter. I mean, we were going to push our orders. I believe when we got there that was a holding point, and we were going to continue to push towards Iraq. You know, George Bush Sr. Decided to do a ceasefire, so we stayed there for about 3 days. I think 3 or 4 days we stayed there, and then we went back to Saudi Arabia. Like we left, we rolled out, and I mean that airport was destroyed, and that'll lead into a future story going back to Iraq. In the future, my first landing was at Kuwait International Airport. You know, and it's like, dude, I pulled security perimeter right on that corner right there. You know, so we went back there. We stayed. I would say we stayed for about a month and a half before they let us go home. You know, we just lived in a tent city. There was a Filipino burger stand that would come in and set up in the mornings, and I remember this because you would send somebody down there, and if they were third in line, you wouldn't see them until 4 o'clock in the afternoon because somebody would get voluntold to go buy, you know, 300 burgers for the whole company, and they would be the first one in line. We had a phone center. You could the old satellite phone. It cost you like $10 to get hooked up in the United States, and then every minute after it was like $5. I don't know. I got home. My parents were like, you know, it was like $300. You know, I only called home twice, right? You know, so.
We still had those, believe it or not, till 2005.
Yeah.
When I was there. I mean, I was getting ready to leave when I did the push through Fallujah. You go in, there's this freaking phone center. And you're like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
like, you know, and then I guess they were still starting with the whole internet thing too, but it was, but man, majority of it we were still call and collect, you know, on your AT&T cards or
Right.
They still had those when I went in 2007, 2008. There were still phone centers,
Oh yeah.
and they were just like, here's a phone and walls.
Yep.
Phone walls, and it was like everywhere around you.
Yep.
And they had like these. It felt like you see in the movies, like the prison, where you pick up the prison phone and it's got like that hard wooden stool.
Right.
And that's all. That's what it was, and it was just all made out of wood and it.
All the graffiti written on the thing.
Yeah, people would be on the phone and they would just be, you know.
like stabbing
Yeah.
things in the wood.
But that times were nice. I mean, even the 4 weeks we stayed or whatever, we put, you know, with PT, get your tan on. We played a lot of softball. I mean, and then you're young Marines, so you do dumb shit. Like, I remember standing outside the tent and this guy comes by with a freezer truck and he's like, "Hey, you guys want some beer and ice cream?" We're like, "Yeah." So he like opens this thing up. We get ice cream and beer off. Well, it's near beer, right? So
Yeah,
we take our
right.
first drink. We're like, "Screw this." Take it in the tent and set it in there. Then we're out there eating ice cream. Well, then the next morning, the company first sergeant or company gunny comes by and he's like, "Hey, did somebody drop off beer and ice cream for the whole company last night?" And we're
Oh
like,
man.
I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
You know.
You're like no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
the
they did
wrap
wrap
over
off the
the
beer. You can have all this beer you want, but I didn't see any ice cream. You know,
Right.
so yeah, just normal things young guys do. You know.
Yeah.
So I mean, we left. We came back to the United States, and so I'll tell you my other funny story is so we got to the airport. And we're gonna fly home, right? And we're the boots. Like, we're the new guys. We didn't serve as much time there. We were there for 3 months. So I remember my team leader coming up to me. He's like, "You guys are going to go through customs first, and you're going to load all the bags on. You guys haven't served half the time we have here, right?" So, okay, yes, sir. You know. So we go through customs, get our bags out, get to the other side, and this guy comes up and he's like, "Hey, you guys' plane just got pushed 24 hours. But there's seats on that plane right there, and you cleared customs, so go get on that plane." So we were back a day before that.
Everybody else.
Yeah, and then that sergeant, he was like really pissed. He was like, "Yeah, like, Sergeant, we just did what you told us to do. Like, you can't be mad at us, right? We were drunk when they got back and everything." You know, so.
Like first class, they're the first,
Yeah.
the reclining seats,
Yeah,
just
right.
hanging out, free drinks and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man, I bet you they were
Yeah.
pissed.
Definitely.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's some good stuff though. I mean, if heck, I got put in the same situation, I did the same thing. And,
Right.
Oh man, I'm not arguing with you. Yeah, I'm on the
Yeah.
plane. All
Right.
right.
Yeah, no, I'm a Lance Corporal, dude. Like, all right, get on the plane. All right, get on the plane.
It's the way to handle it, man. We can just, hey, I just do what I'm told.
Right.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome, man. And then, so what was your maximum amount of time you did in the Marine Corps?
I did 4 years.
Yeah. 'Cause
So I stayed in the same battalion, a couple different companies because we were mortars. We started in line companies. They pushed us over to H&S company. Well, I mean, my goals were to go overseas again and become a scout sniper. That was my goal, you know. And the opportunities were never there. You're a mortarman, you know. We trained, and we trained hard. We had fun. I mean, you know, there was close calls to where you go out and party at night. I mean, I can remember the day they told me I was getting promoted to corporal. Like, I had just turned 21. We go out and stay out all night and go to this house, and I'm like, all right, just, you know, partied up a little bit and we'll leave. Well, I passed out. Then we wake up and we're 45 minutes from base and 30 minutes before PT. So we're flying through San Diego trying to get back to our base. Get there and everybody's in formation. We're in civilian clothes. We jump out of the car, run upstairs, hurry up and change into PTs. And right when we stepped in formation, first sergeant called fall in. So that day,
you lucked out.
So that day when we went to after PT, we go down to our CP, and my platoon sergeant calls me in, and he's like,
"You're about to
you are so fucking lucky. Like,
Yeah.
Here's your corporal orders. If you first sergeant would have called fall in, I'd be ripping these up right now." You know, and he's just like, "Oh." So we got close to. I got close to the end, and nothing was happening on sniper school or anything like that. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to get out. I'm going to go home, go to college, become a state trooper like my dad, you know, and all these things. And Sergeant Major loved me, like, you know, every day, like, Corporal White, "Hey, how's it going, Corporal White?" You know, so he knew I was getting short, and he was like, "You gonna re-enlist, Corporal White?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't think so, Sergeant Major." He's like, "Why not?" And I was like, "These are the things I want to do, you know." And he's like, "I'll tell you what, if you re-enlist, I'll get you orders to Okinawa once you complete the next Scout Sniper School." And I was like, Sergeant Major, it's too late. Like, I have like 3 days left of the Marine Corps. You know? And for them next 3 days, I would see him, and he, hey, Sergeant Major, he'd act like he didn't freaking know me because I wasn't a lifer, you know.
Yeah.
So I got out. I mean, I went back home, you know, and it was too slow. Like being in the Marines for 4 years, and you know, just like schooling. Like, hey, you want to go to this school? Sure. When am I going? Pack your shit because you got to be there tomorrow. You know.
Right.
In the civilian world, nothing worked like that. It was like the Michigan State Police at the time were state jobs. You had what was called affirmative action. Affirmative action was one of the things where, as a white male, I needed a higher score to get in to the state police. My local city police, you needed to go to the academy, but you couldn't go to the academy unless you were hired by a police department. So it was like a catch-22. So I was working security at a casino for a while, and I got offered opportunity to even be a travel cop. When I talked to the guy about it, he's like, "Oh, it's 3 years, you know." So I was like, "Man, I can't do this." Winter came. It's upper Michigan. I'm like, it's cold. I lived in California for 4 years. Yeah. This ain't working, you know. So I called a Marine recruiter, and I was like, "Hey, I want to come back in," and he was like, "Can't take prior service. We're still downsizing from Desert Ship, Desert Storm." So I called my buddy who was an Army recruiter, and he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, can I switch MOSs? You know, like, can I be military police or, you know, get some cool job?" And he's like, "Oh no, Army needs infantry guys too, right?"
Yeah.
He's like, "What I can do is I'll give you your duty station of choice, stuff like that." So I joined the Army.
Gotcha.
Gotcha. Here's what's bad is I joined the Army, and a month later, the Marine recruiter calls me up.
Oh, yeah. See?
And he's like, "Hey, dude, I got openings now. Have you ever thought of becoming an aircraft mechanic? Like, I can get you into the school, right?" I'm like, "Dude, I just joined the Army, man."
Yeah. You're like, "No, man, I'm Army strong."
yeah. So it was, you know, but it was tough. It was tough going in there from that side, but it was actually easy. I mean, and it's something you can't really tell Army guys, but it's infantry's infantry. No matter what branch you're in, infantry guys are infantry guys, right? And it was easier because of the discipline level, the basic training we had. It was a little bit easier. The hardest part for me was lingo. Like, you know, they'd be like, and the other thing was the Army was first, they were like, well, to come in, you're going to have to go back to an E3. I'm like, dude, I'm not going in then. I'm like, it took me 3 years to make corporal. Like, that was a big accomplishment, right?
Yeah.
So they finally said, "Okay, we'll let you stay in E4 specialist." But yeah, the lingo, like, they'd be like, "Hey, specialist white, go march to the platoon," you know, and you give them a lefto blank, and they're all like, "What?"
Yeah,
or even when you're calling cadence, they're like, "What is he saying? I don't know what he's saying." Right? But I mean, good leaders in the Army, good schooling. I mean, you know, and you started to learn, and you just brought what you had from that side, and continue to grow.
Well, in the Army, you just had to, when you call it drill, you just have to have that country accent, right?
Yeah.
It's a requirement.
Yeah, a southern drawl in order for them to understand you.
So but in the future, you know, when I was a drill sergeant, I mean, everybody, like my battle buddy, my senior battle buddy was a former Marine too.
Oh, nice.
You know, a guy named Blanchard, and so we would, you know, sing some Marine Corps cadence to him, or, you know, we'd make him do "This is my rifle," this, you know, just little things like that, you know, bring a little bit of Marine Corps into it, so it was fun.
Yeah, they probably stole it after that too, because that's a cool cadence, we're gonna use that.
Yeah.
That's ours now.
Yeah, it stuck around for a while.
Right? Yeah, it never goes away either.
But a lot of former Marines in there. In fact, one of my buds, he's a retired sergeant major from the Army. Him and I served in LAR together.
Oh, wow.
You know, so a little bit before me, but yeah, we served in the same unit in the Marine Corps. And he ended up, you know, same thing. Got out, ended up joining the Army, went through Ranger School. You know, ended up retiring as a sergeant major. So.
It's not a bad deal.
Yeah.
I mean, that's actually cool. I mean, you at least get experience.
Well, I mean, times in the Marine Corps back in the 90 through 94, I mean, I had some of my leaders, best leaders, I would put them against anybody that led me throughout my military career. And at the time, they struggled to make staff sergeant.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I had buddies that got booted out at 12 years.
Promotions are tough.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Get booted out at 12 years because they can't make staff sergeant. They've been a sergeant for 8 years.
Dude, I was watching guys in 93. No, not 93. I'm sorry, 96, 97 time frame. Just having you know, they were like booting out like 19 year,
right?
You know, like first sergeants and stuff like that. It was like, what?
Right.
You know, it was kind of crazy at that point. But yeah.
Well, that was weird because when I was on the trail at Leonardwood, Fort Leonardwood, you had all branches because you have all these training schools, right? My neighbor was a Marine gunny. And he'd only been in the Marine Corps like 12 years. And I'm like, dang, the promotions changed. 'Cause
Right.
I had buddy, you know, they weren't getting in trouble or anything. They just, promotion system wasn't promoting.
Dude, I had one guy, it was in 2006. This guy's standing there, and I'm behind him at the food truck over at SOI, just chilling, and it turns out, so he gets his food, he turns around, I put the kid in the Marine Corps, and he was a staff sergeant.
Wow.
And I just happened to pick up Gunny. So no, I actually was sorry. Let me get the date right. 2010. I'm sorry, about 2010. And I see this guy because I came off recruiting duty, and I was like, "Holy crap, dude! Seriously?" You know, so I went 99 2002, and it's been this much time coming. The guy's a freaking staff sergeant. You just don't expect that. So I picked up pretty quick, supply guy, and good kid too. So. You know, but when you see that, you're just like, oh man, I'm so proud right now, you know, and all that. So, but yeah, it's wild the people you see, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it's a small community. I mean, it's a large community, but it's a small community. Because when I was in Iraq, I had my mortar platoon in Iraq with the Army. We were in Anajaf, and it was a Marine Corps base. So the Marines had gotten into a pretty good fight down in Anajaf with Mock Totter's militia. So our tank or armored infantry unit, you know, we kind of combined. They sent us down there because our air was kind of nice to help the Marines. So we get down there and we're standing in line for food one day, and there's this gunny standing there, and I'm looking at him like, hey Gunny, I think I know you. And he was my weapons platoon sergeant.
Wow.
In LAR or LAI when I was there, you know, and he. Yeah, back in Iraq, we're both in Iraq, you know, and it was crazy. That's how small the community is.
It's a very small world, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Pretty amazing. So, what years were you in the Army?
I was in the Army from 95 to 2011.
Oh, so you still a little longer in the Army than you did in the Marine Corps.
I did 16 and a half, almost 17 years in the Army.
So they give you credit for the Marine Corps too, so you got retirement, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. 21 years served, yeah.
Yeah. Retire if you can retire.
That's
Don't just
right.
get out.
Yeah,
Good Lord, man. If you get out, you're
Yeah.
just kind of wasting the whole time that you're in some sense, especially if you're over 15.
Right.
Well, if you're over 8, I mean, that's it. I mean, you're kind of over the hump at that point, like, of dealing with the lower level bullshit.
Right, but I mean, at least if you got like 15 in, you could finish your last time in the reserves, and you still could make up for that kind of stuff. Whereas if you only got 8 in, I mean, like for me, I still wasn't sure whether I was going to stay in or not. It wasn't until I hit like 10 years, I'm like, all right,
that was for me.
I'm over the hill, man. I'm on the downhill at this point. You
That's
know,
exactly what it for me. Every time I came up for Reenlist, was like, I'm done, I'm getting out, right? This is it.
That's how I was every single time.
And I got to a point I was just over 10 years, and my unit in 101st, we were getting ready to go to Sinai, Egypt on a multinational force and observers mission, that the peace accords that Carter had created, right? So I was getting out. And then I get this orders from the Department of Army to send me to my next promotion school. So I was in part 2 of the Kentucky State Police Academy portion of testing to become a Kentucky State Trooper. We owned a house there and everything, you know. They sent me this and they threw that thing under my nose again. Right? And I was like, so I said to my wife, like, what do we do? You know, I mean, I'm probably going to get a job with the Kentucky State Police, but it's a state police job. There's no guarantee we're staying where our house is. We can move all over the state. And she was like, just stay in, dude. You're at 10 years, you know. So I re-enlisted, went to Sinai, came back and became a drill sergeant for a couple of years, you know. So, and then you're just like, no, that's screw it, I'm staying, right?
Yeah.
And in the middle of that drill sergeant, 9/11 happens. So I got this. I'll just tell you a little bit about drill sergeant school. So it being infantry is infantry. Infantry was still all males back then or whatever, right? So I volunteered to be a drill sergeant. As soon as I made staff sergeant, I was like, I want to be a drill sergeant. So I'm in Egypt. So it's getting close to the end of the 6 months. So I called my branch, and it was still back when the phones were satellite, and there would be that break between you talking, right? So I get on the phone with my branch, and I'm like, hey, I'm just calling to see did I get my drill sergeant orders? And she's like, yeah, you got drill sergeant order. Okay. When do I report to school? And she's like, well, you go to school in March, in Fort Leonard Wood. And I was like, okay. Then where am I going afterwards? So as an infantryman, your expectation is you're going to Fort Benning, Georgia. That's the home of the infantry. And she's like, Fort Leonard Wood. And I was like, wait, you know I'm an infantryman, right? And she's like, yeah, this is infantry branch. Like, you're talking to the infantry branch. like, what am I going to Leonardwood for? She's like, you're going to be an integrated basic training drill sergeant. Well, integrated means I had males and females.
Everything, yep.
And I had never worked with females in the military my entire career, you know. But it worked out well. I mean, I had good drill sergeant instructors. They had been integrated drill sergeant, you know. And I had my first senior drill sergeant that I worked under was a female. She took care of me. I mean, she was like, listen, Battle, here's the deal. I'm gonna help you out. Like, if I see things that are going on, like, shouldn't be going on, I'm gonna hint to you, like, but not so every time. Like, if you don't start to catch on, then I'm gonna let you throw yourself under the bus. But she did. Like, when females would, we called it parade sexy, you know, or hey, drill sergeant, what do you know, just little different things, you know. She would just skin them up, and they were more scared of her than there ever were of any of us. You know? So that helped a lot, and you just started to see things, and I mean, a lot of guys got in trouble. I mean, it's one of them leadership positions to where you have full power. You could be the ugliest person in the world. You put on a drill sergeant hat, your people drawn to you because of that hat, right? Yeah. And some guys and gals couldn't handle that. And you would, you know, I've seen a guy in 19 and a half years when he got court-martialed out of the military because he was having relationships with a female trainee, you know, and you're just like,
that's
dude,
career,
that's
huge,
that's crazy,
right there. Yes.
I mean, I seen one of my battle buddies in our company, airborne ranger, combat mustard jump on his jump wings. He jumped into Panama, you know, and gets rolled up, and it wasn't hard. Like, they graduated. A couple days later, his wife calls and says, "Hey, where's my husband?" I'm like, they're like, "What are you talking about? We're not even in cycle right now." So they get concerned. The chain of command gets concerned. They go upstairs and open his desk drawer, and there's this picture of this female trainee. She's wearing nothing but his BDU top with all of his stuff, right? And they court-martial. When you get court-martialed, everything was stamped void. It's like it never happened. Like, you just give up all of that.
All that time for nothing.
Not any time, but man, you give up all your benefits. Man, it's just.
Yeah, and that's where drill sergeant school was good, because they would tell you. I mean, they knew all the stories, and they would tell you, you know, you're gonna get caught. And the thing is that when they caught them, when the investigation started, they would go back to every training company that they had been in prior and start questioning people. And normally they would find a chain of events. So it was you're done. I mean, you're just done. So.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Yeah, it happens though.
It happens.
I mean, it does happen.
I mean, you spend. I will tell you that it was the most rewarding job I ever did. But I knew my trainees better than I knew. And think of your own drill instructors, right? Yeah. The amount of time I knew them better than I knew my own family during them cycles. Yeah. Like, I would come home at night at 10 o'clock, and I would eat my dinner. I would come home at 10 o'clock at night, and I would eat my dinner out of the microwave, fall asleep sitting on the couch, and at 3 o'clock the next morning I was back up and with them, you know.
I heard about that duty. That's why most people didn't want to, you know, the people that did want to do drill instructor duty or drill sergeant duty, this what you're talking about. Yeah, they didn't want to do it because of that.
Right, but it was rewarding. I mean, you would change people's lives just like our drill instructors change our lives. And when you understand it from that side, you're like, okay, now I know. I mean, we would play games the same way as drill instructors did. And when you're a young trainee, you're like, this guy's a freaking terror, right? I mean, I can remember my sergeant drill instructor I have, and he ended up getting in trouble. But you know, that dude was crazy. Like, his name, drill instructor Sergeant Mavis. And he would just torture us, you know. And the guy, I swear he hated my guts, you know. But my funny story is you remember in boot camp you would mirror, like you and I would be a mirror, right? And every night they would do the snap, sir, the spirit has no personal mental problem this time, pop, right? And as I was standing like this, out of my peripheral vision, the guy who mirrored me, we wore boxers back then, and your flip-flops, your shower shoes, would hang his penis out of there, and he'd be doing a penis salute, and I can see this out of my, so you're trying not to snicker, and then the drill instructor thinks you're laughing at him, and you're not, you know, just the crazy.
Trouble,
then he would skin me up for hours.
Oh, we could do this all day. We're talking stories about boot camp, man. We all have stories these guys, man.
But yeah, good leadership school. I mean, it taught me a lot. Ready to become a platoon sergeant and lead a platoon. So
Yeah, so after you were drill sergeant school, what happened next? What'd you do next?
So 9/11 happened in the middle of my time on the trail.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I was we were on a rifle range, BRM range, and 9/11 happened. So the range cadre stopped it. We were going to call drill sergeants up to the tower. We were trying to keep it under wraps so that our trainees didn't know it until our company commander and first sergeant got out there because they wanted to tell them all. But we had some that were riding with the ammo sergeant and they had radio on the truck, so they already knew this was going on. So a lot of kids from New York, summer surge, you got all these kids.
Right.
Every one of the kids got a call home that night, just to say,
Just
hey,
make sure be safe at home.
Yeah, but just like for me in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, being in Marine recruit training, we had to turn it up, and we would have senior leadership be like, "Oh, don't scare them," like. This is real, dude. Like it don't matter if you're reserve, National Guard.
Yeah.
This just became more real for you, right? And we're not trying to scare anybody. What we're trying to tell you is take this training seriously because every one of you this is going to affect.
Yeah.
So it made it a little more real. For me, it was a 2-year commitment on a drill sergeant. You could volunteer to be a 3rd year, and so my sergeant major asked me to be a 3rd year drill sergeant, go to drill sergeant school and teach drill sergeants. I told him, no, I'm done. I need to get back to the infantry. Like this is great. I kind of want to sew this patch down because you're always walking on eggshells that you could get in trouble. It takes a split second to do something, and now you're under a 356 investigation, putting your hands on a private or whatever, right? So
Could be a career ender.
Could be a career ender real quick.
Could be. It all depends on whether you did it or you didn't do it, and to what level you went to.
Yeah, I mean, I had some close calls. I think every drill sergeant has some close calls. In the beginning, privates don't really understand what you can and can't do to them. And I'll tell you, my one story is we were in the end of training cycle. They were getting ready to graduate, And so the company commander comes in to do his inspection, and he comes around and he gets in front of the biggest kid in my platoon, big old cornbread kid from Wisconsin, right? And as soon as he starts asking him questions, the kid starts tearing up, his lips quivering and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So when a commander leaves and he goes down to the next squad bay to do his inspection, I'm giving this kid a hard time, and a couple of the trainees are talking in the back while I'm talking, and I'm like, private, if you don't shut your mouth, I'm gonna come back there. You better grow wings before I get there, because I'm gonna throw you out of the 3rd-story window, right? Not realizing it, and they knew I wasn't gonna do it. It was an attention getter for everybody, right?
Yeah.
But the company commander heard me down the hall, so then it was like all of a sudden this other drill sergeant comes down and says, "Hey, the commander wants to see you." So I get done talking to the privates. I go down there and he comes out of his inspection. I'm like, "Sir, you want to see me?" And he was an infantry guy too. And he's like, "I heard what you said." And he's like, "You can't be saying that." I'm like, "Sir, that private knows I'm not going to throw him out of the 3rd-story window. It was an attention getter, Just them little things, but it could have became serious.
No, Mikey's like this.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm not gonna throw him. Look at me.
He's like hanging half out the window.
But it was just
He's
one.
like, "Sir, I was just making a point.
Yeah, you're like,
I wasn't gonna let him
really
go."
Gonna do this.
Yeah. So it became the point of there's a war going on. There's a couple wars getting ready to go on. I'm in a training environment. I want to go back to infantry. I was supposed to go back to 101st Airborne. That was where I wanted to go. That's where I owned my home and everything, And so I was supposed to re-enlist. I had my orders going 101st. I was supposed to re-enlist coming off the trail to go back to 101st. So when I called branch, like, "Where's my orders?" Like, I'm getting close to leaving. They were like, "You haven't re-enlisted." And I'm like, my window just opened, right? And they were like, "Re-enlist and call us." So I re-enlisted, call them. They're like, "Sorry, 101st is at 110% strength right now. We have no job for you there."
I hate when they do that kind of stuff.
So we ended up going to Alaska. I went to Fairbanks, Alaska. Called it the Fishing and Hunt Brigade.
Did you ask for that, or
Yeah, I was like, "Yeah, I'll take Alaska."
Surprise! You're going to Alaska.
Yeah, so we went up there. It was supposed to be a 3-year assignment. Alaska was light infantry. They were switching to a striker brigade combat team, so kind of like LAVs again, But my wife had a medical condition, and they cleared her at the Exceptional Family Members Program. Then we get up to Alaska, and I take over a mortar platoon as a platoon sergeant, and my wife goes to the doctor, and they're like, "We can't do none of that here. Like, this is what we can do. We'll fly you to Fort Lewis once a month,
Oh Lord.
and you stay for a week, and then you can fly back home." And I'm like, I'm the mortar platoon sergeant. Like, I can't take a week off a month and sit at home.
Yeah.
This
So-
was right before the Exceptional Family Member Program?
Yeah, that's what it was. It was Exceptional Family Member
Yeah.
Program is what should have caught it, right?
Right. And it
So-
never got caught.
right, yeah. So I had to call branch. They were like, okay, and Iraq has started by now. The branch manager at the time was one of my sergeants when I came into the Army. He was our branch manager, a guy named Sean Moslett. And Moslett said, I'm going to send you back to Fort Hood. And I'm like, please no. Like, Fort Hood is the largest Army installation in the world, you know. And he's like, listen, I know it sucks. I know that's not where you want to be. He said, but there's a mortar platoon there that needs a platoon sergeant, and they're getting ready to go to Iraq. He's like, this is the best thing that can happen for your career.
Yeah.
You know, so we went to Fort Hood.
Especially as a platoon sergeant.
Yeah, that gave me my platoon sergeant time. So I went, took this unit, or took this platoon, and it was crazy because I got there. They were separating kids out. They were separating kids out of the Army, you know, if you had drugs or whatever, even though we were building up, getting ready to go to Iraq. So take this platoon, it was only 6 months before we went into Iraq, but like 2 months prior to us leaving, they come out and say, everybody's in stop loss.
Oh yeah, I remember those times.
So I had to go tell these kids that were getting ready to get out, like, sorry, bud, you're not getting out. You're now coming to Iraq, you know.
Mm-hmm.
No, I made one of them was my driver. Best thing I ever did, man. That kid was awesome. Named David Lingo. I would tell him, hey, David, this is what I want. We're gonna leave on patrol this time, right? I would come out, grab my radio, do a radio check. All my trucks were always ready to go, you know, and it was great. So it was good for him, good for me, and we're still lifelong friends, you know what I'm saying, and it was good, but it was a tough conversation to have with him because he was like,
dude, that's
what?
Rough.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's like giving them really like bad news.
Well, he's a prideful kid. I mean, and I think we've all seen it in the military. You have some leaders that all they want to do is yell and scream, right? They don't want to lead nobody or nothing, and that's the type of leadership you have. Well, he wasn't the type of kid who was just going to take it. Like, you're going to give me some respect. Respect goes both ways. Just because you're a sergeant and I'm a, PFC doesn't mean there still shouldn't be some respect.
Yeah, you're not going to treat me like trash just because you've got a higher rank.
Yeah, and I think that was his whole point of, I'm going to smoke some weed because that's the quickest way out of the Army, right? I'm not going to deal with this crap.
Yeah, when I joined there, so I used to be a lot different than I am now. I smoked weed at MEPS when I joined because, I was just stressing out. Like, I had to go to boot camp twice. This is my second time going back to boot camp. I was just stressing out, and I popped on the piss test, but they needed bodies in Iraq, and so when I went to boot camp, they had me take another one, and now, of course, I popped on that one too. So then they had me take another one to make sure I wasn't like, I didn't do it now, like in boot camp sometime,
Right.
And then I had this, I guess, a chief in the Navy. He came up to me when I was at the medical at boot camp. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, MRP? Medical rehabilitation?
No. It was like the...
Oh, the pre before you actually go in?
No, I was in boot camp. But like the
the reception battalion?
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Well, yeah, I was in there. I had to take another piss test in there, but when I got to my platoon, I had to go to like BAS, but it's called something else, like on wherever you go to like get your shot, like a shot in the butt. Like it was something like that. I just can't remember what it's called. And I had a guy pull me aside, a chief pull me aside when we were getting our shots, and he was like, normally you'd be in the brig right now, and I was just like, wait, what's going on? What did I do? And he's like, you popped on 3 piss tests back to back to back. He's like, I need you to be honest with me. Did you do anything here? And I told him, I was like, no, I did it at MEPS. Like, I don't want to ruin my military career by doing this, but it's what I did as a civilian, like to just, calm my nerves and stuff like that. And he's like, well, yeah, he's like, you're lucky we're at war, because if not, you'd be in the brig. You'd be on your way to the brig right now.
Hey, Godhead, man, I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
I don't think you mentioned that during.
Yeah.
Learning some stuff. No,
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah. You used to.
Yeah.
But I was 19, and it was just the environment I was in. I hung out with a lot of people who smoke weed instead of and drink or anything.
At least you're honest about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not.
Afraid to deny that.
Yeah. It's not like I'm not doing it now or anything. It was something that happened. It's relevant to the situation now.
Right.
But
So here's my question for you: is you did you obviously did the Marines and then you did the Army.
Okay.
Were you married the whole time? When did you get married?
So I got married. In fact, when I met my wife, I had 6 months left in the Marine Corps. Right.
Oh man, so very
so I was like,
yeah.
I don't, you know.
Yeah.
She followed me back to Michigan, and then we got married. When we got
How'd you guys meet?
at a club, at a country western bar, and
That sounds normally as Marines. Yeah, got you Western bars. Right?
Yeah, we used to do the different country western bar every payday weekend, you know, and we went to this San Dimas. It was San Dimas, a little country western bar, and met her there. And I wasn't looking for anything. I just wanted to, you know, get out and go home. But I mean, that's how it happens, right? So
Yeah.
There you go.
yeah.
I was curious on that because I was like, man,
Yeah.
this guy. How was it when you were? I mean, obviously you went into the Army and stuff. It was pretty tough for the wife. You did a lot of around and.
So up until 9/11, I mean, drill sergeant duty was always a tough assignment. But up until 9/11, I mean, it was pretty normal. You do your training events, you go to the National Training Center. You know, I went to Japan for 30 days, different things like that. Iraq was pretty. We ended up getting extended twice. So it went from a 10-month to a 15-month deployment.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
Especially Army. Army has a pretty rough deployments.
Long.
Especially
deployments.
15-month.
Oh, yeah.
deployments.
Yeah.
And that was rough coming home. I mean, how much somebody changes in a year along with you changing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and I don't think there's a veteran that can come home from one of them environments and say you don't have some post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean,
You just don't have any.
right.
Something.
Yeah, there's some things that, you know, so it was rough coming back from there. For me, I guess by that time I'm a sergeant first class. I'm an E7 in the Army, you know. So for the senior leadership, you do your deployment, then you go to a training environment for a couple of years, and then you go back to a
Right.
deployment.
Right.
I think of them young kids that, you know, they might do 2 or 3 tours back to back to back. Like when I went to Iraq, we replaced a unit out of Germany, right? They had been there for 15 months.
Ugh.
They gave us their equipment, we used their equipment. When we were leaving after 15 months, we were giving them back their equipment.
Oh yeah.
So when
Same
you
people.
so when you think of the training, and I think Marines did 9 months, but it was like 9/9 or
Yes,
whatever it was,
9.
right?
Yeah.
But I mean, you think you're going to go back, refit, take a little vacation, start your training, and 15 months later you're right back in the same situation.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I had 2 or 3 year breaks between every one of them assignments, and it was a break. But yeah, and then when you talk about post-traumatic stress, you know, I mean, I think even my rifle company, when I came back from Afghanistan, like the Army by then was like, you don't leave for 90 days. Like everybody stays in the unit for 90 days.
Right.
Well, you're still in the honeymoon phase.
Right.
Yeah.
So now when all your leadership leaves, that's when the real problems start to happen.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I mean, I still get calls from my guys even today. And I mean, I've been retired for 9 years now.
Yeah.
You know, and guys still have things that go on that, you know, and I'm glad they call me. Like, call me any time of the night, any time of the day, you need to talk, right?
Yeah.
But that's the things that I don't think big government understands is that it's not something that just goes away, you know.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then you know, you just can't throw. I think we had a talk about this. Will probably do with our suicide
yeah,
ones, but
touched on it.
you can't just throw a
No.
it's some kind of civilian that doesn't understand
yeah.
it. And it's, we talked about it before. So
You know, and it's senior leaders. That's the conversation they need to have. I mean, like when I came out of Afghanistan with my rifle company, I mean, Department of Army called me and said, "Hey, where are you going to go when you retire or when you come back for a sergeant?" You know, I was like, "Well, I'll go to a training. I'll train people in NTC getting ready to go to Afghanistan." And they were like, "Have you ever thought about teaching ROTC?" I'm like, "What's that?" Like, we're going to send you to a university. You're going to teach future officers, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah. Like, is Notre Dame open? You know, you know. So I ended up at the University of Utah teaching. But I remember my lieutenant colonel, as soon as I walked in, he's like, first sergeant, you got PTSD? Do you struggle from PTSD? Well, I'm sure I have a little bit of issues.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'm glad you said that, because if you didn't, I was sending you over to the VA right now. At least, you know, he wanted me to say that, yeah, everything's not normal, right?
Yeah.
It's understandable, but yeah, he's like, you were going to go see a counselor if you'd have told me no, because I knew you're full of shit.
Well, I think a lot of guys, I think a big issue with like deploying and stuff, especially if you're married and stuff, is you always have your buddies saying your wife's fucking some dude,
Yeah.
and then that's all you think about, you know, because you're married and everything. And a lot of times, you know, most people just do it as a joke,
Right, they do good fun, yeah, or they're just trying to mess with you.
Yeah, or exactly. But it works, you know, and that's why the divorce rate is astronomical. I'm a statistic.
I think that's part of it. But I think there's more to this. We can go. We'll probably have one of these times. Maybe we just have the wives come in here and we do interviews with the wives.
Well, I mean, communication's hard, right? I mean, think of your communication plan in there, right? I mean, and even if I think back to Desert Storm communication, it was letters, right?
Yeah.
Up to even when I was in Afghanistan. I mean, we had phones on the side of a mountain that when they were up, you could call.
Right.
But there's still a big breakdown.
Yeah.
It's like sending a text and then you read into a text and it's like, what's going on? And then, and my wife and I have conversations about things like these after that, and it was like, but there's a big communication breakdown.
That's a lot. It's huge. That's what I think is huge.
And then you throw in time.
And then you
throw in time, like, their daytime's your nighttime, and it's.
Well, you grow apart too, because a lot of times all the habits that you set when you were back in country, then you leave.
Right.
You've gone 9, 15 months.
Yeah.
And then you're, like you said, you're a different person, and then you come back, and then you're reintroduced to somebody, and you don't know them.
Well, and then I'll tell you the other thing is retiring from the military after 21 years. My wife got used to the lifestyle. You're on the road. Even your family, they start planning around that. We struggle a little bit even after I retired. Just the adjustment phase is now you're home every night. Like this is unique, right? But it was good. Overall, I would say, even my wife would say it was good. There was tough times after 9/11, a lot of deployments and stuff, but your family makes it what it is, really.
It sounds like you got a great career, man. I mean, it sounds cool. You got 21 years in there. You're successful. You're married.
Yeah, no, it was good. I wouldn't change it other than and I love my Army days, but I think I would have probably tried to stay in the Marine Corps the whole time. And I'm not saying that because there's 2 Marines in the room.
I got you.
That was where I started, but I'm going to say this. I served with Marines in Fallujah, Fight 2.
Yeah.
Right, and as an Army capacity, I was in Fallujah 2. I was in Anna with the Marines. I'm going to tell you, in them scenarios, it's good to be Army. So Army's big Army, right?
What were you? Hold on a second. So I was also Fallujah 2. Who were you attached with?
I was with 1-5 Cav.
Okay.
Yeah, 1-5 Cav.
I remember I worked with you guys. We probably looked at each other and didn't even say nothing. But we probably wouldn't have known each other back then either. So I got one point where I think I talked about it in my interview. I got stuck in the back in one of those. Was it the little tank that you can put the people in the back? It was called that's a 25
Bradley.
Yeah. I actually got shoved in the back by Bradley one time. So with those guys. So.
But I mean, when you're a Marine, you only understand a Marine, right? So I remember in the Battle of Fallujah, we went to the outskirts to relieve a squad of Marines that were out there. They lived like Vietnam, dude.
Oh, yeah.
They were dug in. They were getting rocketed every day. Me and my mortar platoon roll in, and we got radars that pick up anytime somebody shoots at us. So as soon as missiles were landing, we were counter-firing these people.
I probably got called in because I was with 1-3. We got counter-battery by the Army.
Yeah.
By the artillery.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually marked our 81's position as an enemy position.
That almost happened to me too.
It happened. Yeah. It actually killed 8 of our guys. So it really sucked. I mean, just.
But I think back to them days, and it was like, that's how I lived. As a Marine, you just understood it. It sucks.
Yeah.
You just got to suck it up, right? But I think back to Anna Joff. We got to Anna Joff. It was August. It was 130 some degrees every day, right?
Yeah.
Big Army, we bring AFIs with us. We bring ice truck with us, right? So we started doing joint patrols with the Marines there, and we would roll up to the gate, jump in the refrigerator, grab bags of ice, fill our coolers, and then you look at the Marines, they have nothing.
Yeah,
right? I had to tell my guys, like, hey, listen, we're going to start splitting bags of ice. They don't want, but then you think about it. The Marine Corps support element is the Department of Navy.
Yes.
They're out on a boat. They're not bringing it.
They're going to bring that.
They're not bringing none of that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about our logistics, man. We're supposed to be expeditionary, so they're not going to, we don't need an ice truck, So it's like, it's one of those things.
Why do you need to be comfortable?
Right?
Like, you're out here to do...
That's money. We can't give you guys money.
You're out here to do a dirty job. If you're happy, you're not going to do the dirty job.
Right.
Yeah.
And we all know the same because we're all infantrymen, or we're all riflemen. But, if a Marine ain't bitching, he ain't happy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll make them. You're just stirring up and saying we'll turn them loose, right? Not
Yeah.
pissed, right? But yeah, I mean, even that staff sergeant Fallujah, like when we replaced him, I was like, "Hey man, what do you guys do?" He's like, "Dude, we live out here for 14 days, right? We eat MREs all day long. After 14 days, we go back to Camp Fallujah. We stay for a day or two to refit, wash our clothes, get some chow, make some phone calls, and then we're back out here for 14
I
days."
wish I could say that. I came in twice. I showered twice while I was in the Battle of Fallujah.
Yeah.
I lived
Well,
in the
this
city.
was prior to going in, so this was after one, between 1 and 2, right?
Yeah,
Remember when
yeah.
they started going to Fallujah?
Yeah, so I was in 2, and when we were in 2,
yeah.
we stayed
Oh,
in
yeah.
the city the whole time. Lucky for me, I mean, the only thing that helped me out was since I got reattached back to an anti-armor team, we were able to go back and eat on there twice and shower and come back, you know.
Well, in my platoon, we went to outer cordon. We went to the outer side of Fallujah just to try to catch the squirters coming out of there, right? When we rolled out there, you know, from that bridge overpass,
Yep.
buildings were
Exactly where you're
within
at.
rifle range of you. When we came back at the end after the Marine Corps birthday and all that, shit, it was probably 2 miles to the nearest town, the nearest building
Yeah.
from that bridge.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
level that
Yeah,
place.
I think past that bridge, it's just, you know,
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
Rubble.
Pretty crazy. That sounds awesome though, man. It sounds like you
Yeah.
had a good time. That's what we like to hear. I like to
Yeah.
hear people's stories,
Yeah.
man. And it's,
Yeah, definitely.
At least you know, you got to get out there, experience, you know, the fun of Iraq. There's no real fun to it. But, you know, you get to get out there, and then you
Yeah.
also got to run recruits. Well, we
Yeah.
call them recruits, obviously,
Yeah.
privates for you guys.
Yeah.
So you got to run them, man. That's a tough job.
Yeah.
But it's awesome. Pretty
So
rewarding,
we-
like I said.
So we pretty much ask everybody two questions every single time. What was your best moment in Army or Marines? While you were in, what was the moment you look back and it brings a smile to your face every time you think about it?
I guess I would have to. When I graduated,
That you can talk about.
Yeah, no, I would say probably the time that, I mean, honestly, the hardest part was when I graduated Marine Corps boot camp was probably the happiest time.
Yeah.
And I think it's because it's that accomplishment. And I would say,
Yeah.
I would hope even for an Army private or any branch service, Air Force, Navy, whatever, that graduation period where you now become military separated from civilian
Yeah.
should be the pinnacle point of something that you just say, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the
Yeah.
best time.
Yeah, what about your worst, man?
Yeah. What was the worst time that you feel comfortable talking about, where
Right.
you were like,
You don't have to drop names.
Yeah.
Everything like that. But just if you had
I would say,
a negative experience.
I mean, any time you lost somebody over there, it was not good.
Heartbreaking.
That is
Yes.
heartbreaking.
That's the hardest
I
part.
think that's everybody's hardest part about being in the military in general.
Mhm.
That like something, like for me, it was not being able to reenlist because
Right.
I got in a car accident, and then them denying me because I was going to join the Army. I was going to go straight from the Marines to the Army.
Right.
That was my heartbreaking moment because my first sergeant and I didn't get along,
Right.
and so he denied my request to join. And then I got separated as a. When I finally got my honorable discharge, I had like a separation
RE2?
RE3 or something, like that,
RE3 Alpha?
which is like a medical.
Yeah, it's like a medical.
So then I would have to do like a bunch of doctors and physical therapy in order to join the Army.
Right.
So it was kind of like it's too much work for
So
me.
if we went around that, I would say
Yeah.
the worst time. So I had a major back surgery when I knew something was wrong when I got back from Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Right. And I couldn't. No. Every time I went to the doctor, like, oh, I don't know. You know, I don't know. You start to question yourself, right? Well, then finally, I was doing a little PT one day, and my toes went numb and felt like I had a Charlie horse in my butt, you know.
Mm.
And so come to find out, I have a major back injury, right?
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
I had bulging disc, and from there it went to you have degenerative back disease and all that, right? So then I had to make that serious. I'm an infantry first sergeant, or an infantry master sergeant right now. I'm not in charge of a company,
Yeah.
right? Do I stay? I'm eligible to become a command sergeant major or a sergeant major in the Army,
Yeah.
right? Go to the school, or do I go? And then when I had to make that determination of, I'm not probably ever going to be able to lead soldiers from the front again like I did previously.
Yeah.
It's time to retire, and I think that was the point, because I don't know if I was ready to retire,
But you have.
but I knew it was the best thing to do.
Yeah, for you, personally.
Right, and for my family, because I think my wife was at a stage of, you
Yeah.
can stay in the Army for another 10 years until you hit 30,
Yeah.
but please let us buy somewhere and retire and settle in.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was a decision that had to be made.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, So you met your wife when you were in the Marine Corps. How long have you guys been married?
25 years this year.
Nice,
That's
man.
crazy.
Nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You have any children?
Oh yeah, I have three children, all adults.
Yeah.
I have 3 grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I have a daughter who lives in Florida. My son lives here. He's a crew chief out at Gowan Field.
Oh, okay.
And then I have a daughter who's 19.
Yeah.
So she still lives at home sometimes when she's home. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question. Any of your kids in the military?
Yeah, just my son. My oldest daughter did too. She went in the Air Force for a couple of years,
Yeah.
and that's how she ended up in Florida. I mean,
Oh.
her husband at the time and her
Yeah.
moved. That's where he was from, was Pensacola, so that's where they moved to.
Yeah.
And what are
That's
you
awesome.
doing nowadays that you're completely done with all this?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're PFW, right? Are you just doing PFW? Or?
Yeah, just VFW currently. I mean, I support a lot of organizations, anything veteran related.
Yeah.
Mission 43. I think it's
Oh, yeah,
called
Mission
Mission
43.
43.
Yeah.
Idaho Veteran Network. A little bit
Yeah.
involvement. I mean, not as much as I should be. So if Marnie listens to this, I apologize.
Yeah.
I've never made
Well,
it.
hope we can get her in here one time. We'll have
Yeah.
to talk to
Yeah.
Marty.
Yeah.
I think we'll probably try to interview her just on the Idaho Veterans Network.
Right.
Yeah.
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 So, and then I did Wyken. Wyken used to be Wyken Warrior. Wyken
Yep.
is I actually mentored a college student for a short period of time while she was going to start her master's degree program.
Nice.
I had finished my degree and it seemed like a good opportunity and they offered it and I was like, that'd be pretty neat,
Yeah.
Planning to get back into that, but it's pretty busy at work nowadays, so it's
Mhm.
Yeah.
finding the time to do that. If you're not, I'm a firm believer if you're gonna volunteer your time, then you have to be able to volunteer your time.
Yeah.
You can't half step it, right? You
Yeah,
got to
exactly.
be able to volunteer your time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
fantastic, man.
Yeah.
That's you have an awesome story. man.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm glad we were able to get you come in and talk about it.
Right.
Because I mean, I think it's why we do this. We want to hear it. Maybe that's one
Yeah.
the gang says a lot is, hey, every veteran got a story.
Right.
Absolutely, we all have different stories. Individual experiences may vary depending on what it is, but
Sure. Yeah.
even whether you did something or like you obviously did a lot. Whether you did a lot or you did a little, it doesn't matter. It's just I think everybody has something that they contributed and made our society.
Right, I hope everybody's listened to these stories. I mean,
Yeah.
I've listened to the first few you've done, and
Yeah.
I agree, man. Everybody's got a story,
Mm-hmm.
and as you get around these people, and so far, these are people that we know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And we don't even know this about them until they've had a chance
Yeah.
to sit down and tell it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that, like when we were talking about it, when you asked me about, what made this, why did I think about this?
Right.
And it's one of those things like when you run into somebody like that you don't, even if you know where they were in the military, and then you start talking to them and hearing about them, you're like, wow, you're amazing, you're a badass.
Right.
Like you've done stuff that, like you see in they make movies about it, they make TV shows about it. You shaped, like we were talking about Dave, you shaped history.
Right.
Like,
well, Dave will be in here eventually.
yeah, we'll get Dave in here, but I mean, like when we talk to him, like he shaped history,
Oh yeah.
Right.
like for the future,
Right.
and you never know just looking at him.
And most of them don't think it's that great. Like,
Yeah, a lot of people
They
want
don't
to
think
hear.
they've done much.
People
exactly.
want to hear them stories. I mean,
Oh,
you
absolutely.
do.
I think that's one thing that we're going to continue doing is trying to get many veterans to come in
Yeah.
here and talk their story. I mean, we
Exactly.
definitely want to promote what they do if they work in
Yeah.
veteran business and stuff like that.
Right.
But we definitely, everybody's, time should be shared
Yeah.
so that these future generations of our kids and kids after that, and they know that, they have an understanding of what
Yeah.
we did in our time.
Exactly, and I feel like a lot of older generations, they feel like you always hear the stories of the major battles, this and that, but everybody's a cog in the machine,
Mhm.
and a lot of these, especially like these Vietnam guys, like they don't exist. American people have only seen what the news broadcasted,
Right.
and of course, bad news sells, and
Right.
good news doesn't sell. And I feel like a lot of people, there's a stigma with vets. If you don't do stuff that is like Hollywood stuff,
Mhm.
your time didn't matter.
Right.
And a lot of guys are like, well, I
think it's a stigma, but yes.
yeah, it's a stigma
Yes.
because they're like,
It's
well,
a big stigma.
I didn't really do anything. It's like, no, you did stuff.
Right.
You weren't out there, like you weren't.
Right.
You might not have been kicking indoors or,
Right.
blowing stuff up or doing this, but what you did, you have cool stories,
Right.
Regardless.
And we have to
what you did.
understand too, because we as veterans, we're not like. It's funny because you can always tell who the real veterans are because we're very humbled about our stuff. I mean, regardless, I mean, it doesn't matter. You know, if you're going in there scalping dudes, or you know, I mean, obviously there's people that have gone to that level that you know, I'm not part of like 1-7, for example, that got surrounded in Afghanistan, and they're fighting with the, you know, fixed bayonets and
exactly.
and on the way. That's, I mean, wow, you know,
That's just crazy stories.
Just, you know, everybody has a different level in it, and you know, but at the same time, you know, whether you didn't get to do much, you know, it's still important.
Well, that's where these veterans organizations are great, right? I mean, and I think that civilians outside that may never have served, right? It's why do veterans form these cliques? Well, it's because we share something in common, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And I would say to veterans out there that are listening, join an organization. It doesn't have to be the VFW. It doesn't have to be. Pick something to where you get your involvement with the veterans, because it's going to make it a little better for you each day. There's people out there that understand what you're going through.
And I think it's the best thing about this thing, and I'll leave it at this, you know, is that this is just like us sitting in a bar, man, and just three veterans get together and just, that's what we do when we get together. You know, we drink beer and we talk about our careers and what we did. So, you know, you're actually getting something that most veterans don't talk to civilians. If you're a civilian that's never been in the military, we don't talk to you about our careers. We don't like get into the nitty gritty detail about what you're seeing it if you're watching this. You're getting the stuff that, you know, if I was sitting in a bar with Mike right now and Danny, I have to admit the first podcast I was a little tipsy, but you know, for the most part, you know, if I go out and have a beer with people, that's the best time I want to hear this kind of stuff. I mean, I don't like to drink any other time, you know. I mean, this is the only time I actually like to have some type of alcohol. I'm not drinking tonight, by the way. So, just tea. So, but I want to thank you for coming in, man. I think it's been awesome that you could share it.
Yeah, definitely touched on that a little. It's kind of a behind the scenes thing. I don't like looking at the camera. I always feel weird. But it's kind of like a behind the scenes thing. Is you'd never like this wouldn't happen if somebody else was here who wasn't a vet. Like we would just sit there and we talk about other stuff.
Right.
But everybody feels like.
Did you mow your yard today?
Yeah, exactly. We just talk about random stuff, you know. But it's kind of one of those things that like it's kind of just like a glimpse of into what brings us together. Why we have a brotherhood, a bond, regardless of what branch you're in. Like it's one of those things that you just can't get unless you have like a lifelong friend. If you've been friends with somebody like 10 years, then it's kind of one of those comfort things. But you wouldn't just tell some of these stories with like some dude just comes up to you.
You don't know. Yeah, if I didn't know somebody, I can talk to nobody. You know, and it's sad because, you know, it could be the first time I've ever met Mike, but if I know that in fact he's a vet, and you know me by talking, you know, we were talking about MOSs and just like little words that, you know, each of our services have, but we can still identify when another veteran from another because of you know, USA bandwidth, and we know, I get what you're saying there. You know, and kind of everything jives up. So, you know, it can be 10 minutes, and as soon as I confirm that this guy's a vet, and then I'm kind of like barrier down, and I can actually talk to that person. But my barrier's up most of the time when I'm talking to people.
No, it's just like you know, the ones you serve with. I mean, you could go 10 years and never talk to them or never see them, right? And you meet, you know, you get to see them in the city. It's not like, it's like you never left off. It's like, you know,
right?
I mean, it's amazing, right? That bond, and I think we all share that bond, and I agree. I appreciate you guys bringing me in, but I think
you got a great story.
I'm
glad, glad we had you in, man.
I always wish we always had more time, like, because I mean, we've all got stories. We were in the same place. He might have been one of my instructors.
It's possible.
It's very possible. We probably crossed paths in SOI, and I probably took a class from you for something.
I mean, we were on the opposite sides there because we went through MCT.
Yeah.
I taught at SOI. I also taught the leadership course over there. So,
but it's those things that you never know, you know, like where people are, and it's one of those stories where we had
the same freaking guy.
Yeah, you guys were in the same place. Well, you guys were in the same place, you know, like
same place.
And it's those things that, like, we could talk for hours about stuff like that, and I always wish there was more time to do it. But you know, like,
oh yeah, I was a little nervous coming in. You know, like, oh, I
Yeah.
don't want to tell all this to right.
Yeah.
But it was very comfortable in there. It just felt like we were sitting around a table.
well, and that's kind of what the general idea is
It's
just
kind of like set it up, you know, in here, you know, you got the kind of military ambiance and,
Right.
yeah.
and kind of, you know, you got two vets that are like willing to, you know, kind of
Yeah.
ease you into it
Right.
in terms of wanting to hear what you got to say. Because that's what it is. I mean, like I
Yeah.
said, you know, we're vets and we get you.
Yeah.
You know, some people won't, and it's just a matter of how comfortable you are talking to people. And
Yeah,
Right.
that's all it is. Yeah.
all right, man. Well, I think let's get this going, dude. Let's,
Yeah.
so next time, hopefully, we can. We're not sure who we're gonna have yet, but hey, tune in for our next podcast. We should have somebody pretty cool. We'll hear their story.
Yeah.
I've got a couple people lined up. I think you're like
Yeah.
Dave. Hopefully, if I can talk to him, we'll see if he's one of those. But I also have I've got maybe one or two other guys. I think I can't wait to hear theirs. You're gonna love
Yeah.
their stories.
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely. So you know, we appreciate you being in here. There goes one camera, but hey, you know, like, good thing is we got another camera now too. So, sorry, my train derailed because of that.
It happens, man. It's
yeah.
all good.
But yeah, thanks for all the support. I mean, the support we've been getting from these podcasts is kind of overwhelming. Like, I didn't think it would be. It's not like super successful, but I didn't think it would be as successful as it is.
Yeah. Yep.
When I thought about it. But yeah, thanks for you know, everybody just supporting and everything, and we'll look forward to talking with other people and getting some other people in here,
Right.
doing some veteran business podcasts, veteran organization kind of
Stuff,
spotlights, you know. So
And if you have like, if you're seeing this on Facebook, or you're seeing on there, and you put it in the comments, you know, if you have suggestions, like you would like to see something or have us interview certain people, or a bit that's going on, or definitely put that in there, because we're definitely gonna, you know, if I see something like that, you got a great idea, we'll jump on that.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, and feel free to. I hate it when people do this, but you know, like, share, subscribe, all that.
Follow
All that YouTube type stuff.
Just don't hit the stalking button. We don't want anybody stalking us.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
No, it's all
But-
good. Hey, thanks. I appreciate you guys' support.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so we'll see you guys in the next one.